And another thing that St. Padre Pio always said was always be aware that every soul has their own guardian angel. So always pray to your own guardian angel to guide and protect you in your earthly journey. So he was always very strong about that. And so then we go to the lowest triad, which is interesting because that's the principalities. The order of the holy archangels is of the same rank with the heavenly principalities, for there is one hierarchy and division, as I said, of them and the angels. But since there is not a hierarchy which does not possess first and middle and last powers, the holy order of archangels occupies the middle position in the hierarchy between the extremes, for it belongs alike to the most holy principalities and to the holy angels. To the principalities, because it is turned in a princely fashion to the super essential princedom, and is molded to it as far as attainable, and unites the angels after the fashion of its own well-regulated and marshaled and invisible leadings. And it belongs to the angels because it is of the messenger order, receiving hierarchically the divine illuminations from the first powers, and announcing the same to the angels in a godly manner, and through angels manifesting to us in proportion to the religious aptitude of each of the godly persons illuminated. Interesting, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're sending the actual messages that are coming from the middle triad to the angels of the principalities and the angels, like the guardian angels and the other angels that we're going to be talking about, that then speak to us and guide us and work with us subconsciously in our dreams. And so the angels of the principalities include Haniel, who is the grace of God, Nisral, the protector of religion, and then Serviel was the preceptor angel of David, and Raguel, the angel of the earth and guard of the second heaven. And then we go into another order called the angels of punishment. And this is interesting because in order to understand the angels of the punishment, I have to read to you from the Apocalypse of the Holy Mother of God concerning the chastisements. And how many of you knew there was an Apocalypse of the Holy Mother of God? I mean,
Mm,
whoa, isn't
you
that
didn't know
fun?
that?
Didn't you? Now this library is looking a little bit more fun, isn't
Mm.
it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's like, what? Yes, there is an apocalypse of the Holy Mother of God, and it's concerning the angels of the punishment and the chastisement. So here we go. This is a little part of it where it says, the all holy Mother of God was about to proceed to the Mount of Olives to pray. And praying to the Lord our God, she said, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, let the archangel Gabriel descend, that he may tell me concerning the chastisements and concerning things in heaven and on the earth and under the earth. And as she said the word, the archangel Michael descended with the angels of the east and the west and angels of the south and the north. And they saluted the highly favored one and said to her, Hail, reflection of the Father. Hail, dwelling of the Son. Hail, command of the Holy Spirit. Hail, firmament of the seven heavens. Hail, firmament of the 11 strongholds. Hail, worship of the angels. Hail, loftier than the prophets unto the throne of God. And the Holy Mother of God said to the angel, Hail, Michael, commander in chief, the minister of the invisible Father. Hail, Michael, commander in chief, associate of my Son. Hail, Michael, commander in chief, most dread of the six-winged. Hail, Michael, commander in chief, who rules through all things and art worthy to stand beside the throne of the Lord. Hail, Michael, commander in chief, who art about to sound the trumpet and awaken those who have been asleep for ages. Hail, Michael, commander in chief, first of all unto the throne of God.
That's very interesting because the angels of the directions very similar to indigenous Native Americans with the different directions where they
Yes.
revere the different directions.
Yes, and that's very
Spirit,
interesting.
spirit
Very good
animals.
point.
Yeah.
Very good point. Yes, very much so. And it's interesting as well, even just going back to what we found in, I believe it was in the Merkaba, it
Mhm.
was somewhere in there about the different animals at the four directions.
Mhm.
That was also a thing in ancient Egyptian religion. The exact same animals in the four different north, south, east, and west. And I found that to be fascinating. Wrote about that in the Mysteries of the Redemption. You find these parallels,
Yeah.
across these religions that are really interesting, considering that, at least as far as we know, there was very little contact between these faiths.
These
But
cultures, and it's interesting because in a way, with the different directions, it kind of creates somewhat of a Merkaba. If we have these different attentions of these different energies, perhaps it creates a sort of mystical vehicle, an instrument for us.
yes, another thing I'd like to just point out about this text here from the Apocalypse of the Holy Mother of God, we have very few words that were spoken by the Mother of God, by Blessed Mother Mary. And so every word that we can hear from her is really important to us. We have a short paragraph in the writings of the early church fathers, of a letter that she wrote to one of the churches, very short little letter. And that's the only writing we have in the writings of the early church fathers. And we have a few little mentions like this, but very few words attributed to the Blessed Virgin Mary during her lifetime on earth. And so these words that come out of her mouth are important to listen to because we have so few. And so, continuing, after having greeted all the angels in like manner, the highly favored one prayed the commander in chief regarding the chastisement, saying, "Tell to me all things on earth." And the commander in chief said to her, "If thou askest me, highly favored one, I will tell thee." And the highly favored one said to him, "How many are the chastisements with which the race of man is chastised?" And the archangel said to her, "The chastisements are innumerable." And the highly favored one said to him, "Tell me the things in heaven and on earth." Then the commander in chief, Michael, commanded the western angels that revelation should be made, and Hades opened, and she saw those who were chastised in Hades. And there lay there a multitude of men and women, and there was a great lamentation. And the highly favored one asked the commander in chief, "Who are these, and what is their sin?" And thus begins the text, which then outlines 26 chastisements. And these chastisements are presided over by these angels, the angels of punishment. Remember, these are angels, not demons. These are the angels who preside over the purifications of the spirits in the purgatory and the hells. So, according to this text, there are angels of the chastisements who oversee these purifications in such realms, not just demons.
So they're
And
there
so
for
we
our
have,
protection,
yeah, yeah,
right? This is for your
yeah.
own good. We're trying to protect you here.
And so we start with Cushiel, who's the presiding angel over hell, Lahatiel, presiding angel of the gates of death, Shaftiel is the carrier of the judgment of God, Makatiel is the plague of God, Hutriel is the punishment of the 10 nations. Interesting. Puriel is the prober of the soul, pitiless. That's scary. Rogziel is the wrath of God. Interesting, huh? Something
Yeah.
that not all things cover. So
It's like when you were going through purification, Puriel was, you were doing that to yourself, pretty, the prober of your soul, pitiless, like going as deep as you possibly could.
yes. And that continues, that continues because the purification never ends. We continue that as long as we're in the physical body. And like one of my former priests told me, until 20 minutes after death. So, and so, we're always hopefully trying to constantly evaluate, so that's how we keep ourselves on track.
And these are all necessary for purification. And it harkens back to when I spoke about this well-respected author that I've read a bunch of his books, and he's like, well, I question, because he says so many brilliant things, but I question if you can't just go wherever you want, then, I'm not following you. Speaking of like spiritual realms and stuff, and I'm just like, come on, man. He's so brilliant, in so many ways, but he's missing that kernel that's so important.
Well, and if you take that and you go back to St. Francis's prayer to the virtues, where he says about holy obedience, holy poverty, holy humility, holy charity, save thee with my sister, holy obedience. And people are very uncomfortable with that particular virtue, especially, it's probably in today's world, but it's probably been in all ages. But the reason for obedience is obedience to rightful authority. And when you bring that up and you talk about that, I think that is not an uncommon thought in a lot of people, where they're like, well, what is it with all this, old-fashioned religious stuff? Why would you have to not go where you want to go or do what you want to do? It's like, well, because if you want to progress to something of value, then you allow those souls of magnitude and value to tell you how to get there. And you are obedient to what they guide you to do. So you guide yourself. Yeah, you can go wherever you want. You're not going to be allowed into a lot of places because you're vibrationally incompatible. But yeah, you can just wander around and do whatever you want, and it's pointless and you will get nowhere. Or if you want to go to somewhere of great magnitude, then you follow and obey a being of great magnitude who knows how to get to God. And then you realize that in order to actually reach and achieve union with God, you have to become a being of great magnitude. And how do you become a being of great magnitude? By becoming humble and of low magnitude. Recognizing your littleness, your lack of magnitude, that you are small and insignificant before God, and that you are willing to allow God to take you as he may. So that this very simple misunderstanding that people have, which prevents them from having the joy of the gold.
And it's one of those things we talked about earlier too, because it sounds really good the way he says it. Like, I am unlimited consciousness. And if something or someone has this belief that is limiting my consciousness, then that's not for me. Let's say if it's for you, that's okay. But it's not for me. I'm unlimited consciousness. So, it sounds great. But it's too bad, because as good as that sounds, to discern that and look at that and unpack that, it's really like, oh, that's too bad, man. It's going to hold you back, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. In order to become truly unlimited consciousness, we have to place limits on ourselves.
Whoa. Did you just drop the mic? My, that's so true. Wow, that's that's great. Well, I like what
So
we're getting into.
we can do it. We can become that, but we have to place limits on ourselves if
Yeah, we
that's
can't
what
just
we
do whatever
wish.
the heck we want, right? It's like, woo, let's do what I want. And there's no way. Because how can you like get to different tiers and levels? And I just don't see it.
Does the person thrashing in the padded cell realize that there's more outside that padded cell, or do they just thrash? You know,
Hmm.
the in order to understand what you what is even possible, you have to become worthy to even understand what can become possible.
Yeah.
You have to become small. You have to be willing to throw yourself at the feet of Christ, throw yourself at the feet of God. You know, when you have certain experiences, and most people who really go deep will tell you when they get to a certain point, and this happens with the angels too, but it happens when you meet Jesus Christ many, times where you might be just thrown to your knees or thrown straight on your face to bow before him, because you have to understand the hierarchy of holiness as well.
Hmm.
And that we must have the humility and the holy awe to respect those beings of greater magnitude in the proper ways. So if you don't understand that unlimited consciousness is not attained without placing limits, then what you're talking about is creating sort of a padded room for yourself where you just bounce off as much as you can, but you don't realize that there's more outside that padded room. You have to be contained within a certain vibrational barrier, and you will be, because you are not given the responsibility of any type of higher understanding or higher sphere of knowledge unless you have shown that you have the discipline and the respect to honor it properly. You will not be allowed there unless you do. And so this person in the symbolical padded room in the universe, thinking that they're just kind of doing whatever they want, they will be contained, thinking that they're free and unlimited, when in reality they're contained. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so what what does it take for us to actually become free and unlimited? Self-discipline, respect, honor, holy awe, obedience to higher authority, legitimate higher holy authority. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So all of these things come into play, and these are the things that a lot of souls and people, when they think of, well, I want to be unlimited consciousness, or I want to just do whatever I want, are very not open to. They don't realize that those, however, are the keys to what they actually say they want.
Hmm. Yeah, I see like for someone who seeks unlimited consciousness or what that is, and maybe even somebody like the person I was speaking of is an author and a speaker, and so spends a lot of time looking at this kind of stuff, and so really does have a
Mhm.
good handle on forms of consciousness and how far out things go and what makes up reality and such. But it's almost like when he gets to the end of this journey and he passes, it's almost going to be like, hey, good job. Okay, that was step one. All right, let's move on to step two of unlimited stairs. Yeah, kind of what I feel like. Brilliant, amazing. Just like, because I follow a lot of people, or I have throughout my life, where I go deep with them and see where they're at. Some very intellectually just geniuses, breaking down world politics, geopolitics, philosophy, psychology, whatever it is, and they're brilliant, but it's just like that one little aspect. It's brilliant. Wow, you can go a long ways with that in that little cube, so to
Yes.
speak. And there's so much more.
Yes. And I mean, we all have our blind spot, So, yeah.
For sure.
And so it's important, and it's good for all of us to remind ourselves of that. And, it's good for me to remind myself of it too. We all must, I think all of us actually want what he's talking about. We all want to we want to go into the universal sphere of being. He's kind of probably talking about the same thing. He's calling it unlimited consciousness. You just have to remember, unlimited consciousness requires limits. And so we understand that, we can get there. Okay.
So the angels of the seven heavens.
Yes. And so from the book of Enoch, and this is the translation by R.H. Charles, says, I saw the treasuries of all the winds. I saw how he had furnished them, the whole creation, and the firm foundations of the earth. And I saw the cornerstone of the earth. I saw the four winds which bear the earth and the firmament of the heaven. And I saw how the winds stretch out the vaults of heaven and have their station between heaven and earth. These are the pillars of the heaven. I saw the winds of heaven which turn and bring the circumference of the sun and all the stars to their setting. I saw the winds on the earth carrying the clouds. I saw the paths of the angels. I saw at the end of the earth the firmament of the heaven above. And I proceeded and I saw a place which burns day and night, where there are 7 mountains of magnificent stones, 3 towards the east and 3 towards the south. And as for those towards the east, one was of colored stone, and one of pearl, and one of jacinth, and those towards the south of red stone. But the middle one reached the heaven like the throne of God, of alabaster, and the summit of the throne was of sapphire. And I saw a flaming fire. And beyond these mountains is a region, the end of the great earth. There the heavens were completed. And I saw a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire. And among them I saw columns of fire fall, which were beyond measure alike, towards the height and towards the depth. And beyond that abyss I saw a place which had no firmament of the heaven above, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There was no water upon it, and no birds, but it was a waste and a horrible place. I saw there 7 stars like great burning mountains, and to me, when I inquired regarding them, the angels said, this place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars in the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire are they which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord in the beginning of their rising, because they did not come forth at their appointed times. And he was wroth with them and bound them till the time when their guilt should be consummated, even for 10,000 years. And that is from the book of Enoch, talking about the angels of the 7 heavens. But we also have something here from some Hermetic texts, which says, then Hermes saw a wonderful sight. The starry heavens, stretching through infinite space, enveloped him with 7 luminous spheres. In one glance, Hermes saw the 7 heavens stretching above his head, tier upon tier, like 7 transparent and concentric globes, the sidereal center of which he now occupied. The Milky Way formed the girdle of the last. In each sphere there rolled a planet, accompanied by a genius of different form, sign, and light, whilst Hermes, dazzled by the sight, was contemplating their widespread efflorescence and majestic movements. The voice said to him, look, listen, and understand. Thou seest the 7 spheres of all life. Through them is accomplished the fall and ascent of souls. The 7 genii are the 7 rays of the world light. Each of them commands one sphere of the spirit, one phase of the life of souls. I see, said Hermes, the 7 regions which comprise the visible and invisible world. I see the 7 rays of the word light, of the one God who traverses them and governs them by these rays. Still, O Master, how does mankind journey through all these worlds? And so here we have a list of these angels. And so again, you're going to see overlapping roles, which is really interesting with some of these archangels that you'll recognize. And so in the first heaven, we have Gabriel, who's an archangel. And he is God is my strength, the angel of annunciation, resurrection, mercy, vengeance, death, and revelation.
Now, before we go on to the next, would this be a hierarchy of heavens? So first being lowest, and then second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh?
Yes, it seems to be that. You know, this one would actually probably coincide a little bit with, you know, the Jewish 7 heavens. And in the Jewish 7 heavens, the 7th would be the highest. I had an experience with the 7 heavens as well. That's in the Mysteries of the Redemption, where I was shown there was a 7. And in mine, the 7th heaven was the highest.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll remember, in my experiences, there was the 7 levels, the first through 7, and then the 8. You know, you had to get the book of the 8
Book of
because
the
the
Eights.
8 was immortality. And so the realms 1 through 7, the levels 1 through 7 of purification were all physical, worldly spheres. And then you had to reach the 8, which brought you into ascension and immortality, the next level of spheres. And so this is the Jewish 7 heavens, which is all of the earth. And that's what they're saying here. This is of the earth, the earthly journey.
I see there's 7 transparent and concentric globes. There's 7 spheres of all life. There's 7 genii, 7 regions, the 7 rays of the world light. Are we referencing the chakras here in some way?
It's an interesting observation.
I studied with this lady who taught angelology, I guess you could say, 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, 15 years ago. And she had us work with one of the archangels for 1 week at a time. So we'd work with Gabriel for 1 week, and then Raphael and Uriel and Michael, just in successive weeks, and then some other archangels as well for 4 more weeks. But it was really interesting just to be with each one of those angels with the focus on one of those for a whole week. And so I wonder, like with these heavens, just staying with Gabriel for like one week of the first heaven, and just God is my strength, angel of annunciation, resurrection, mercy, vengeance, death, revelation, and really understanding what that means, and then with open heart and intention, maybe just being with Gabriel and whatever lessons that Gabriel might want to bring to us. And then moving on to the second heaven and the third and the fourth.
Yes, I think that's definitely an exercise that people could consider trying to do in their prayer, for sure. Yes. And it does look like it's interesting too, because we'll find that Gabriel is also in the 5th heaven.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And so let's go back to, okay, so you had the 7 transparent and concentric globes, sidereal center of which he now occupied. Is that what you were reading from there when you were referring to the chakras?
Oh, the chakras, that's just from my own experience, because I used to teach classes on the chakras and stuff, and it just seems like there's a lot of relativity with the heavens, the 7 heavens and the 7 chakras, and the continual mention of the 7, whether it be spheres, the genii, the 7 regions.
Yeah.
Transparent concentric globes, spheres of life. It's just a lot of...
Yeah, they did mention this concentric globes, the genus of different forms. I was contemplating their widespread efflorescence and majestic movements. That is very interesting. Sphere of life, 7 genii, 7 rays of the word light. Each of them commands one sphere of the spirit, one phase of the life of souls. That is an interesting observation, Brian. I'm glad you thought of that and brought it up. I do think that's interesting that it could have a connection to the chakras. In the Mysteries of the Redemption, I also wrote about there was the 7 seals and the 7 chakras, the 7 great religions, and some other stuff. And then this could all also go in right with it, with the 7 heavens, and the 7 chakras are already in there. So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so in the second heaven, we have Saint Raphael, who is also an archangel, and his is God is my strength, is for Saint Raphael. And then there's 2 other angels in the second heaven. One is Zachariel, the angel of memory. Very interesting, because the angel of memory can have a lot to do with revealing your past lives. The angel of memory can be the one who brings up the memory of your past. Galazur is the revealer of the rock, or revealer of the 10 commandments. You know, it's interesting, in the Catholic Church, they say that the law is written in every man's heart. And here they're saying that we have an angel who is the revealer of the 10 commandments in one of these heavens. In the third heaven, we have Jabniel, whose name means Jehovah causes to be built. Cool, huh? Rabachiel, one of 3 ruling princes of the third heaven, and Dalkiel, one of the 3 ruling princes of the third heaven. That's the third heaven. And in the fourth heaven, we have Saint Michael, he who is as God, the conqueror of Satan, ruler of the virtues, and of course the chief archangel, prince of the presence, angel of repentance, righteousness, mercy, and sanctification. And in the fifth heaven, we have Samael, the angel of death, Gabriel, God is my strength, the angel of the Annunciation, resurrection and mercy, vengeance, death, and revelation. And in the sixth heaven, we have Zachiel, ruler of the sixth heaven, and Zebul, angel of the temple, Sandalphon, the twin brother of Metatron, the master of heavenly song. We'll have to talk about that for a sec. So Sabaoth, one of the 7 masters of the presence, and in the seventh heaven, there's Cassiel, the angel of solitudes and tears. So let's just for fun, so the seventh heaven would then be the crown chakra, and interestingly, that's the angel of solitudes and tears. So that's interesting to me.